Hi, my name's Curtis, and if you're just joining the Cornwall conversation, here's a 30-second catch-up. Cornwall Creek Flooding is a pristine lake destination in the heart of the Pigeon River State Forest in Sheboygan County. Built in 1966, the dam at Cornwall is owned and managed by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Recent dam inspections conducted by the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy have rated the dam in poor condition. An effort to repair the dam in 2021 was stopped cold when construction bids unexpectedly came in at over twice the amount of funds secured for the repair project. Subsequently, a recent DNR press release confirms the current plan to draw down the water level later this year and secure funding for ultimate dam removal and the elimination of Cornwall Creek flooding. In the first video of this series, we discussed the responsibility aspect of this situation. If you've not yet watched that video, I highly recommend you view it first, and I'll link it above. Now, in this video, we're diving deeper into the financial aspects of this situation, since, at the end of the day, this is primarily all about money. And money is exactly what is needed to not only repair the Cornwall Creek Dam, but also to properly maintain and manage it into the future. And make no mistake, the state of Michigan has money. A lot of it.
Show me the money!
As you've likely seen and heard in the news recently, the state is predicted to have a $9.2 billion surplus this year. So yeah, the state has money to spend. First, for important context, let's discuss where the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, the owner of the Cornwall Creek Dam, gets its funding for operations. This year's 2023 annual budget for the Michigan DNR is $535.5 million. Yep, over $500 million. Now, while that's certainly a lot of money, don't forget that this is a large organization with over 2,400 full-time employees and a boatload of responsibility. To put that number in perspective, understand that the $535 million budget of the DNR is less than 1% of the state's $76 billion budget. Now, why a Great Lakes state such as Michigan would allocate less than 1% of its annual budget to care for its natural resources is a question for another day, but let's stay focused here on the issue at hand. The $535 million the DNR will spend this year comes from quite a few different sources that are broken into four main categories: state restricted funds, federal funds, general funds, and private funds. Now, each of these categories receive their annual dollars from many different revenue sources, and there are specific fund accounts within each category. It's pretty complex, but let's just run through them briefly. The largest category, state restricted, at $340.4 million, is comprised of a bunch of different funds such as the Game and Fish Protection Fund, Forest Development Fund, the Park Endowment Fund, and several others. Now, revenue to fill these funds annually comes from many different sources as well, including hunting and fishing license fees, oil, gas, and mineral royalties, state forest timber sales, watercraft registration fees, and more. The next largest category, at $94.4 million, is the general fund. Revenue here comes from taxes, personal, corporate, sales tax, etc. This is your tax dollars at work, hopefully to enable the DNR to fulfill its mission statement. Close behind is the next category, the federal, at $93.6 million. This revenue comes primarily from federal excise taxes on fishing equipment, firearm, and ammunition sales. And finally, the smallest category is private funds, $7.1 million, which is primarily grant and reimbursement revenue from a variety of different sources, and also gifts and donations from industries and individuals. So, that's what makes up the Michigan DNR's annual budget. And it begs the question, if they have over $500 million to operate this year, why can't the DNR pony up $500,000 or even $1 million to repair the Cornwall Dam? While that may be a valid question, the answer is not exactly easy, though it does ultimately all boil down to one word: appropriations.
Show me the money!
Just like at the federal level, the state has its own annual budgeting cycle, a big part of which is the appropriations process. This process essentially determines how much money can be spent by each department of the state, what that money can be spent on, and ultimately where the money is coming from. All of these details are presented, debated, and revised by the Michigan legislature as they are run through various legislative committees and subcommittees of the House and Senate. In the end, the House and Senate vote and pass an appropriations bill, which in turn is sent on to the governor's desk for final approval and signature. So, with that in mind, yes, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources absolutely has over $500 million to work with this year. But no individual, not even the director himself, has the authority to just write a check for the repair of Cornwall Creek Dam. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. To a very large extent, the Michigan legislature is ultimately controlling how much money is spent by the DNR and where it's spent. Finally, there is another potential source of funds for Cornwall's repair, and it's perhaps even the most appropriate source, and it's money that's already sitting inside the DNR. Where did this money come from, and why hasn't it been tapped already to repair Cornwall? The answer might surprise you, and we'll do a deep dive in the next video. Stay tuned.